Hello, everyone. My name is Jean Gallagher, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I'm here with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hi, Jean. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Denise is
Thank
our
you.
longevity concierge, and I know, so fancy. She's gonna talk about resolutions and the importance of having confidence through this resolution process. And I think we're gonna talk about overcoming fear, right?
Today, we are going to talk about, yes, the overcoming fear and taking first steps. So, the beginning of the year, okay, so what's today? Today's the 13th. For those of you who have set resolutions, are you sticking with them? By day 13, usually people going, kind of, uh-huh. And what's the number one resolution that people make every single year? Well, I'm going to lose weight. Number two, well, I'm going to eat healthier, which what does that even mean? I'm going to lose weight. How much? How is that, measurable? I'm going to eat healthier. Healthier than what? Right? So what happens is, there's not a lot of passion and oomph behind those kind of resolutions. And I actually do talk about on my website, I wrote a blog about setting a theme rather
Mm.
than having a resolution. So like a theme for the year. You could even have a theme for the quarter, whatever it is. This year, my theme is impact. I want to make sure that I'm having the type of impact on myself, my family, my audience, my friends, that I believe I can, like a big impact. So you can tell by just the way I say that, there's some confidence there, right? So, what is confidence? Why is this so important? Confidence isn't necessarily an innate thing. We're not necessarily born with a ton of confidence, right? But it's, our actions and things that we do that help to boost confidence or create confidence. I think it's important for us to realize that it's not something you just have or you don't, right?
Mhm.
It's a bit of a journey rather than the destination. It takes, what are some of the steps? I like steps, my three P's,
Mhm.
setting small goals, embracing resilience. I mean, that's a big part of confidence because what happens when you set a goal and you don't reach it or you get close, but you're not quite there?
Mhm.
Your resilience, people kind of go, oh, I didn't do it. And resilience kind of fades. And then what? We don't continue with that, or it's kind of like falling off the wagon, right? Mindset, of course, is a big part of this.
Mhm.
And I think that a piece that we forget so often, and it's so ingrained in our DNA as humans, is connection. Connecting with others and the support of others really helps us to thrive personally and professionally. So let's just dive in. Okay, fear. That's basically what happens. Fear, when it comes to confidence, we're afraid of stuff, right? We're afraid of looking stupid. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid we're not good enough. What if we look at fear rather than something that stops us? Stop sign, right?
Mhm.
Talk to the hand. What about, let's think when we change our mindset a bit to thinking of it as that signal for growth. It's time for us,
Mm.
we're at the edge of our um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Realm, we'll just say, and it's like you're right there, and you can either jump over and continue to grow, continue to move forward, or you stay where you are,
Mhm.
right? So, how many times in your think of a time in your past where something like this is kind of something has held you back?
It like it is that it's the unknown piece, or when you mentally set yourself up for here's what I'm going to do, but without the work behind it or without being able to break it down into pieces, it's easy to set yourself up for failure, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's kind of like we have that big goal. People say, um, I had somebody who I was talking to a couple of years ago, and she wanted to lose 100 pounds. And
Mhm.
she's been saying that for 4 years. Okay, she wanted to lose 100 pounds, but she didn't think about, well, how's she going to do that? And this was somebody, did not hire me as a coach for a couple of years. But every year when I saw her, her goal again was, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. And not having that plan was scary. So when she didn't achieve that every year, she just kind of went, I'm going to do it this year. Well, that's great. But she was so afraid to actually, I think she was actually afraid to start because she didn't know where to start. She hadn't really thought about it. And
It
even though she
exposes yourself to vulnerabilities too.
Mhm.
If
Yep,
you're going to create a plan and you're going to ask for help, now you're telling somebody else other than the person in your head, you're telling somebody else that you have an issue, right?
yeah,
We all have people in our head.
I got two. There's usually two people in my head.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you're going to voice that out loud, that means that there is an issue. And that means that you're exposing yourself to showing somebody that you can or you cannot complete what you're saying.
right. And like I said, it's that signal, like it's telling you, like that voice is going, okay, you need to change, you need to do something. But it's the fear that's keeping them back. But as we're saying, without a plan, without really thinking about it, you don't get anywhere. So
Mm.
we really need to think of like, how do you cultivate this confidence if you're afraid and you don't move forward, if you don't get out of your comfort zone? So you actually cultivate it. I like the word cultivate, I don't know why. Through action, whether the action is a plan, a meal plan or step by step, whatever it may be. You can't just wait to be ready,
Mhm.
right? How many times do we do that? Oh, I'm not ready, it's not the right time. And sometimes it isn't the right time. I'll get that. But if you're constantly saying, oh, it's not the right time, oh, it's not the right time, when will the right time come?
I think that we don't take into consideration how important the littlest steps are. If you do something more than you did yesterday, you're ahead. But
Absolutely.
that could be walking around the block. But we're
Mhm.
like, well, that's not going to do anything. Why bother?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
we discount those things. Well, yeah, it's not enough. So,
Mhm.
and then you're looking at ridiculous, stupid social media, and you're seeing
Don't
all
do
these
that.
people doing all these things, and that's overwhelming. So
Mhm.
shut that off and
Right.
do one thing today more than you did yesterday.
Absolutely. Small steps create momentum, right? Once you get something, an object in motion stays in motion.
Mm-hmm.
That could be your physical body, that could be your mindset, right? Once you see, um, let's just pick on the scale. Once you start to see the scale just incrementally, a half a pound. Oh, I've lost a half a pound. I've lost a pound. Oh, I've lost 5 pounds. Once you start to see that, kind of those numbers, getting closer to where you want them to be. Wow. We kind of think half a pound. What's half a pound, right? That's a lot when you're thinking of how many calories it takes to actually burn a pound. You have to burn an extra 3,000 calories to burn a pound. Well, I don't know about you, but burning 3,000 calories in one workout is it impossible? No, there are professional athletes that do that. But for those of us who are like normal athletes, it's closer to 500 calories, say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 3,000 is a lot. But if you're working at it, that 500, those small steps, you're creating momentum and you're moving forward.
How
So
do
I
you
had a,
feel about journaling or writing down what you did so that you can keep track of what you've done so you actually remember exactly what it was versus thinking, well, I didn't really do much or
Mhm, mhm. I like journaling. So a lot of people, when we talk about journaling, like they think like, oh, all these long, flowy paragraphs and you have to write page per page. No, that's not the kind of journaling we're really talking about. If you're into that, go for it. My journal entries are like, this long. Sometimes there are a couple of pages, if there's something going on in my head. But what I like to journal, and I actually do two types of journaling. One, app on my phone, it keeps me accountable. But also, I like to see it in writing. I don't always want to be looking at my phone and putting things in my phone, right? Because we're forever doing that, forever doing this. Like, oh. And as I'm talking, Siri is recording everything I say and probably going to text it to you. Silly thing. That's another reason to write it down.
right.
So journaling is such a big piece of this because you can keep on track. It helps you one keep on track, but it also shows you, in a week, in a month, where you started because we tend to forget that, right? Especially when things start to slow down, whatever the goal might be, right? For me, weight loss is the easiest thing because that's what women, middle-aged women, are always going about. Oh, I need to lose weight, right? So that's always the easy one to kind of pick on. And that's true. Sometimes, when you start weight loss, losing weight, when you're paying attention and you're losing weight, you're focused on it, in the first like 6 weeks, you might lose, say, 10 pounds, right? That's amazing. And then, in the next 6 weeks, it might be closer to 5. But that's just, your body has to adjust to kind of your new weight and whatever you're doing. So looking back at your journal really does help you to understand and really to remind yourself you've actually accomplished something big, right? An interesting story I have about a client, talking about overcoming fear and taking that first step. This is a lady who she's not quite 50, she's more closer to like 48, 49, and really successful in her business. She's been working with her company for 20 years, right? But she always wanted to have a consulting business, maybe something on the side, maybe something that she could do at some point rather than working the typical 9 to 5 or 6 or 7, whatever, she's working. But she's always put it off. She's put it off for like the last 3 years. And a couple of weeks ago, she was helping her daughter uh, either write or do something with her first, it was her first presentation that she was doing in school. I think she's a senior in high school. And she kept saying to her mom, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do this yet. I'm not ready to present it. It's not quite right. And she's actually said to her daughter, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to start. And she said, Denise, it was like the biggest like head smack moment. She's like, I'm telling my daughter this, and yet I'm not doing it myself.
Oh, yes.
We do that quite often, don't we? So truly, when it comes to confidence, because we're going back to that, confidence, we need to have confidence in all the things that we're doing. And these little steps that we talk about, just starting is the best step one you can ever take. And you will see confidence starting to grow.
Great. Thanks, Denise. Appreciate it. And so we're
Absolutely.
talking about overcoming fear and resolutions, and just get started.
Just get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jean Gallagher, and I'm excited to, this is version number 2, or not version, but episode number 2 with Elizabeth Gifford Maffei. And I am so excited. We're going to take a little bit deeper dive into energy work and frequencies, because it's complicated. I don't know if it's the right word. There are a lot of moving parts, and it's so important. But before we start, Elizabeth, welcome, first of all.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here and asked to be back and come back and as you said, dive deeper because there's so much to learn and yet so much that we have the ability to utilize in our lives to make a better life. So thanks.
Mm. So before we start, why don't you give us a little bit of a background, tell us about what a quantum growth practitioner is and a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive in.
Okay, beautiful. Well, quantum growth practitioner, what I do is my focus is to help people to learn how to heal themselves and then therefore grow. Sometimes we get stuck in old patterns or old beliefs or old stories, and it stops us. And these can go on for decades in our lives. Things that are implanted, they are actual frequencies and things that have been created for us that are really not our own truth. And so I help to unravel that and get to that root cause. And I do that by a variety of ways. I am an intuitive, so I do channel information. I work through the angelic realm as well, a life coach. I help people to understand themselves more through numerology and the frequency of numbers in their lives. But we get to the root cause so that they can stop holding on to those patterns that are not serving them anymore. I'm also a Reiki master, so it just, the energy comes through me. I don't create the energy. The energy is all around us, and it's just being aware and capturing that energy and using it for our highest and best so we can serve others. So
You become a
that's what that's
pathway.
about. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so when we're diving into frequencies and quantum fields, this is very esoteric for a lot of people. What is the best way to explain, to start our conversation, but also explain how we are related, how we relate to this concept?
Beautiful. So at the very basic of what it is, and really this is all it is that we are all connected. And you may have heard this many times before in many books or background or whatever, that we are one. We are all connected, whether we are human, anything that is living and alive on our planet is connected energetically. So, what if you look at the big scientific word of quantum entanglement?
Mm.
Well, we know what entangling means. It means wrapped around or together or affecting one another. So, how you think, even if I may don't even if I don't know you and will never meet you in my entire lifetime, how you think, what you believe, and your actions and what you do, and whether you are happy or sad or angry or elated or just, calm and relaxed, whatever those frequencies are that you are into is affecting me. So if you think
Mm.
about it, quantum entanglement is two electrons or two pieces of energy that are not connected to one another, but one affects the other. So even though they can be many, many distances away, and you can, this is all scientific, but even though they're very big distance away, they still can mirror and complement and affect one another. One can move and the other one will move, right? So this is really fascinating to me. So if you think about it, the easy way to think about it in our life is, if say you walk into a room and there's a big celebration, there's a party going on. Well, Jean, how do most people feel when they're at a party?
Well, it depends. They're
Okay.
either going to be engaged in the excitement or they're going to be introverted, depending upon their situation, right?
Right. Absolutely. That's each individual, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's perfect. Because typically at a party, we're thinking a celebration. We're thinking something positive. There may be uplifting music and there's excitement and chatter. Maybe it's a baby shower or a birthday or something. So we're there for an uplifting and positive thing. So the intention, and many people who show up are anticipating something happy, right? Which is a higher vibrational frequency. You can have an individual or some individuals enter the room who maybe they just had a bad time driving there. Maybe the traffic was bad and they experienced something, and they kind of walked in feeling really kind of grumbly and, stressed, or they have something else on their mind, so they come in at a lower frequency. But the whole of the room is vibrating at a higher frequency, and even though one person might need to step back for a little bit, that person's frequency can be raised. So normally you can see somebody's um, countenance shift, and then they become happier. They become more engaged because the quantum field is that higher frequency is pulling up the lower frequency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a rising tide raises all ships.
Look at that, how that
Yeah.
that's perfect. I love it. I love it. However, if someone were to walk into that room and they are really in a very low space. So I'm going to give you an example. So someone who is grieving, for
Mm.
example, right? And we all have that right and that ability to grieve if we've lost someone. It could be a pet, it could be a loved one, it could be a friend, could be a job, right? We're in loss and we're grieving. We all grieve in different ways and in different timing. But say they're walking in a grief, that frequency, and what I mean by that is literally the wavelengths of that feeling
Mhm.
moves at 75 hertz. Now, we're on the radio, so that's you have to tune into a certain channel to get to a certain radio station, and
Mhm.
that's a particular frequency. Well, it's the same thing. So if they come in with a feeling of grief, and they're vibrating, they're moving slowly at 75 hertz. And then you've got a whole room of people who are in joy and they're excited and they're happy and they're like, what's the matter with you? Why can't be happy? They're vibrating at a much faster rate of 540 hertz. Now, look at that difference there.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult. That person may even sink lower
Mm.
because there is too much disparity. There is too much of a gap between those frequencies, and sometimes it's really hard to pull yourself up or to even pull somebody down if you're not matched closely enough. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think what comes to mind is relationship work.
Yes.
And there might be one person in the relationship that's really going through a difficult time. And you have another person in the relationship that is naturally vibrating at a higher frequency, but that there's an opportunity for the person that's at that lower frequency to really drag the other down. And I don't know if drag is the right word, but it would be very difficult over time for it could be difficult over time for that person that is on that higher frequency to maintain that level of positiveness.
That is so astute and absolutely correct. And if there is not a willingness to shift on the part of both of those people in a relationship, sometimes the relationship ends.
Hmm.
And I work a lot with clients who have either ended a relationship or are going through that where, you're just, what do people say? You're just not on the same page.
Hmm.
You're just not in the same frequency. And if you've got someone who is struggling and going through, and there's no judgment, there's no good or bad or indifferent, high, low. We tend to want to put people and things in categories and say this is good and this is bad. It's not. It's just, it is what it
It's
is.
different.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. But if you're that type of person who drags other people down, I mean, if I'm dating myself, but you go back to the 60s and they would say, man, you're a drag, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to have the fun and do the things that they wanted to do. That's so funny that came up. But if you're in that space and you're unwilling to level yourself up just a little bit,
Hmm.
and you've made that choice to just stay at that level, stay at the anger or the grief or the guilt or the shame. I mean, that feeling of shame is one of the lowest frequencies.
Hmm.
And that has to do with someone whose esteem has just been obliterated for whatever reason. But if you're staying there and you're not willing to rise up, like your rising tides, rise up a little bit, and if you're the other person in the relationship who has always positive, always seeing the good in everything. Not, 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 it's not that they're not in reality and they don't see that there are issues and challenges,
Mhm.
but they look on the positive side. They're in gratitude. They understand the blessing in the situation. They understand there's a lesson in the situation. What that person can do is safely bring their vibration down a little bit so that they get closer to meeting the vibration of the other person. And sometimes all that is about being present and allowing the other person to share and lowering your voice and not offering all of these wonderful solutions, just listening and allowing those challenges to come out so that they can voice it. And then together they can create some solutions so that they bring each other up.
Each other up.
Yeah.
How would one recognize? So a couple of questions. Well, I have a lot of questions, but how would one recognize where they're currently at? How and and how do you know that where you're at is where you need to be, frequency wise?
Okay. That's great. Great question. I want to be able to talk to that. So, how do you recognize where you are?
Mhm.
One of the things that I suggest to people, I mean, we know when we feel off, sometimes we don't recognize what that is. But how do we figure out where we are? Well, if you look at what you can do is check in with your physical body, right? So you ask yourself, how am I feeling? How am I feeling right now? And where do I feel that? Sometimes, for example, sometimes we feel overwhelmed, right? Just
Mhm.
overwhelmed and confused, and we've got a lot on our minds. We've got so much to take care of and all of that. Well, where are we feeling that confusion and that anxiety is up here in your head?
Mhm.
Because you can feel you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed and my head is just so filled with so many things I have to do. And if you write those things down, you get it out of your head, right?
Oh, every time.
Right, exactly. And it's funny, some people will say, well, I can't sleep because I wake up in the middle of the night and I've got all this stuff going on in my head. Write it down. Put a piece of paper and a pen next to your bed and just write it down and then just say, okay, now I don't have to go over it in my head so that I will remember it the
Remember,
next
right?
day, right? You get that, right? We've all been there, right? But if you're feeling, for example, fearful, if something has come up for you and you're afraid, it could be simple, and not that this is particularly simple for everyone, but it could be just as simple as, how am I going to pay for that next bill?
Mhm.
Or my child hasn't come home yet, and he hasn't called me, and I'm afraid, right? If you ask yourself, where am I feeling that? You may be feeling that more either in your heart space
Mhm.
or maybe in your gut. We have those gut feelings. That's our intuition, right? So that's to answer where we are feeling it. It's good to identify where in your body first so that you can say, okay, well, then I don't have to, I can't keep thinking about things because I've got enough stuff in here. I'm going to release that first. And then can have clarity and figure out where I need to be. So
Mhm.
where I need to be is a double question. Where I need to be is, you were asking about frequency. Well, we can't determine what frequency we need to be in until we have the clarity of what direction or what step to take next.
Mm.
Do I text my child to find out if he's okay? Or do I allow myself to um, believe that everything is okay and wait for a little while? Right? So we can raise and lower our frequency. And where do you need to be in that moment? In that moment, perhaps you can bring fear up to concern and curiosity.
Mhm.
You're not going to go from, and you're not going to go from fear to, oh, everything is fine and I feel peaceful and I'm joyful. That's not going to happen. Remember, we don't need to be there right now. But
Mhm.
if fear is not serving you, and it doesn't, anxiety and stress and all of that can create dis-ease in the body. If you hold on to that for too long, then you don't need to be there. So level up just a little bit. Instead of being in fear, be in a place of being desirable to be curious and say to yourself, okay, do I really need to be afraid about this situation? Or am I making too much out of it? Can I just be thoughtful about it? Can I just give myself a few minutes to be calm? And what you're doing is you're raising your frequency. So that's where you need to be. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
It does. No,
Yeah.
that's very helpful, and it's easy. And I like the analogy that you're using because it's something that people can relate to. Worry about a child, and in how does that play a part? And I think that that helps put things into perspective. But the anxiety piece of having so much that you need to do, that releasing it and writing it down on a piece of paper is so helpful. And I would think that that process would be helpful too, as far as fear is concerned, writing down why you're feeling like you are and using a journal to help process some of that information to release it from you and put it so that now that you're actually looking at it outside of you.
Absolutely. And what that is really is an energetic signature. I mean, I don't know how to do this, but I've always been fascinated by people who look at handwriting and
Mhm.
can determine certain things about each of us based on our handwriting. But when you write something down, it is actually an energetic signature. So when you release it and you write it down, you've brought it out of the frequency of your being, your
Mhm.
physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and etheric frequencies. However, you don't want to just leave it there. When you have an opportunity, now you want to shift it to a higher frequency. And the way that you do that is you say, and you write down, I am so afraid that I'm not going to be able to pay this next bill. You've gotten it out. Now you want to cancel that. You want to clear it.
Mhm.
You want to delete it by shifting it into a space of gratitude.
Mhm.
So you're going to take that sentence and say, you might write, I am so blessed, or I am so grateful, or I am so glad, or I am so happy and grateful that the money I will need to pay this bill will show up in the exact timing.
Mhm.
Or um, you might write, I am so grateful that I have always been able to pay my bills, and this one will be included. So you're canceling the negative, I'm afraid, by shifting it into a higher frequency of gratitude. I am grateful for all of the things I've been able to pay for, all of the opportunities that have come to me, all the money that has come to me. I know without a doubt, I feel it, that this bill will be paid. And then,
This all,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Well, this also speaks to the importance of affirmations.
True.
Because for me, I don't want to derail this conversation, but I think
No, you're good.
I'm
You're good.
for me, whenever I'm saying my affirmations doesn't do it for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel as present in those, but writing my affirmations makes me more present for those.
Absolutely. If you write them and then you read them out loud,
Mhm.
and then you can also say the words thank you after each one is very helpful. Another thing that's very profound, but sometimes is a little frightening to people to try, is called mirror work. And basically, you look in the mirror and you can read your affirmations if you choose to, but the best affirmation, it's a great practice to do, is to look into the mirror every morning. Look into your eyes. Don't avoid, because we can avoid looking, right? And
Mhm.
this is not, oh, my hair's a mess, or I don't have my makeup on, or, I just, oh, yeah, none of that. You just look into the mirror, look into your eyes, and you say out loud with a smile on your face, even if it feels weird and strange and scary, just say, I love you. I love you. Just as if you would say that to a pet or a child or a significant other, and you mean it. I love you. And if you try that for a couple of days in a row, you're going to start hearing in your head throughout the day, throughout the days following that, I love you. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. I'll be driving down the road and then spontaneously out of my mouth will say, I love you. And I'm like, that if anyone were sitting here, they'd think I was crazy, right? But it's not like I was thinking about myself or thinking about anyone else. It just spontaneously came out. So not only do I love myself, but I'm sending that love out to the universe. And I'm sending it to the person who's driving in front of me who may be having a really bad day, or the person behind me. And they don't know why they're starting to feel better, but it's because I've shared that. Isn't that awesome? That's the
It
quantum
is amazing. It's
entanglement.
amazing. And how our thoughts are, and if we break it down or just really consider this, that how's the saying go? If we talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends. um,
Right.
so the conversations that we have with ourselves are affecting our well-being or not, but also more importantly, they're affecting our internal energy. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
seems to be the root of what the best step for us to take in order to raise our own vibrations and positively affect others and positively affect our situation is to the thing that we have the most control over is to learn to listen to our thoughts and improve how we talk to each other. I mean, not each other, improve how we talk to ourselves.
To ourselves. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you want to go up the scale, we're going to be leaving some of the lower vibrational feelings or emotions, right? Of, say,
Mhm.
for example, despair or regret or anxiety or even craving, right? Craving something that isn't good for us, or a word that I don't like to use often, but people feel this and it's valid, hate or scorn, right? So we're going to be leaving those lower vibrations. And believe it or not, it's very interesting that you brought this up, to kind of cross over that line from the lower frequency to the higher frequencies. The first emotion is affirmation.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And then from affirmation, this is a big one. I mean, I could talk forever on this as well, and I know we won't go down that route right now. But the next one is trust. And if you start to trust yourself and you ask yourself, what's best for me? It's not being selfish. What's best for me? Is this decision the right decision for me? I trust the decisions that I make. I trust the people that I surround myself with. I trust the things that I do and the things that I think. you start that trust, then it's almost like the snowball effect. It rises up to optimism and forgiveness and understanding and serenity and all those, those wonderful things. But it's it's easy to get pulled down, but it's also easy to rise up.
I
You
love
just have
this.
to go over that threshold, if you will.
I love this. We've spent a lot of time talking about the lower frequencies, and you've just mentioned some higher frequency feelings.
Right.
Let's dive into this for a few minutes, and so we can end on a positive note.
Yeah, sure, of course. Of
Uh,
course.
so
Go
as
ahead.
you're passing through and you're talking about affirmations and then trust and trusting your decisions, and how do you feel about those decisions and how do they serve you? Tell us again, what are the feelings of a higher vibration?
Beautiful. I love it. So feelings of um, love, of abundance, of good health, right? Feelings of acceptance, right?
Mm,
Feel, how that feels when you walk into a room or you're in a group of people and you're the odd person out and you don't feel accepted. A lot of people struggle with that
mhm,
from childhood,
mm,
and I often help them with that as well, is they don't feel that they fit in. And some feel they don't fit in because um, they're different. We all are, right? But others because they just never felt accepted. So acceptance is another one. So an emotion too is as we get higher up in that energy of love, and that's around the 500 hertz frequency. And if you think about it, the earth resonates at 528 hertz. And that is heart healing. That's a heart frequency. So if you've had heart loss or sadness or whatever, that can bring that frequency up. You can listen to that frequency, or you can um, have a singing bowl
mhm.
session that brings that frequency in, that actually resonates with your heart and reactivates the love. But along with that emotion of love is, I think this is so fascinating. It's a word that I don't think is used very often. It's reverence.
Mm.
And if you think of the word reverence and love, it just means that you see yourself and recognize yourself as something very sacred, very reverent, something to be honored.
Mm.
And what do we do when we love ourselves? We honor
Honor
ourselves.
ourselves. Mhm.
We
Yeah.
eat well, we exercise, we have good friends, we share with others, and all of that. We're
It
honoring
goes
ours.
back to that we make good decisions.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So there are, I think what's fascinating too is that there are certain frequencies that can help um, inspire and bring things to us. For example, if you go beyond the 528 hertz, which is heart healing and love and creating a resonance in our hearts, which we have to be alive, right? Another hertz, another frequency is the number 888. And since I work a lot with numbers and the study of numerology, you've got a triple eight there. Eight, the number eight always implies abundance. So if you listen to that frequency, 888, it inspires abundance and prosperity to come to you. And then I think this is really awesome. Physically, we all are exposed to and we consume things that, I'm going to put it this way, have little critters in them, right? We all have, I'll use the word parasites. from time to time in our bodies. And this is a time when a lot of people start thinking about detoxing and, just cleansing out the system. So if you listen to 1150, 1150 hertz, that is a very high vibration. And when you listen to that, that will help to destroy the physical parasites in your body. Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So you've identified some areas and some numbers. Now let's talk about how do we get there? So when you say listening to 888 hertz or listening to 528 hertz, how can we do that? What does that look like?
So again, what that looks like is you can seek out a practitioner who does a singing bowl healing sessions. That's one thing, right? You can literally go on YouTube and you can look for the frequency to heal whatever it is that you're wanting to heal or shift or change. They're also what's called binaural beats, where you have one frequency coming into, if you wear a headset, one coming into one side of the body, the left side of the body. Left side of the body is the feminine side, it is the receiving side, and the right side of the body is the masculine side, it's the action side. So when you're having this, you're actually stimulating the brain in a frequency to help heal as well. So those types of things. And then, so for example, one of the things that I do with people is I create their numerology charts for them. Numbers are everything. If you think of Nikola Tesla and, he said, if you understood the frequencies of the numbers 3, 6, and 9, and you might see over my
See back
shoulder
there?
right here,
Yes.
3, 6, and 9, you would understand the entire universe.
Mm.
So every number from the number 1 to 9 has its own frequency and own value. And right now we are collectively in our world, we are working a 9 universal number. Well, what does that mean? 9 is the number of endings. It's the frequency of endings. It's the frequency of completion. It's the frequency of tying up loose ends. But it's also the frequency of the compassionate humanitarian. So you may have seen, lots of people finishing up things, ending things, and not only globally, but, maybe in your tribe, but also people linking arms, community-based, wanting to do things together, collaborate, cooperate, and putting good things out into the world. So collectively, globally, we are working the number 9, but you may be working a different year, the vibration of a different year. And we work not only years, but each month. So for example, I'm working a 6-year, a personal 6-year, and a personal 7-month. Well, what does that mean? For me this year, it's all about relationships, community. It's about balance and harmony, collaboration, cooperation. But the 7-month, this month of January for me, is giving me some time to pause and to reflect and to go within and possibly to study. And that's supporting me on my journey this year of connecting with others. And so it's different for everyone. Plus, your life path is different as well. So numbers have a vibration of frequency. And if I may, I want to give an example. Would that be okay?
Yes, please.
Awesome. So quite a while back, I was working with an attorney and doing her numerology for her. And loved the law, loved being an attorney, and was working in a firm who their main mission was to bring in as many clients as they could. and make as much money as they could. That was their mission. There's nothing wrong with that. That was just their vision and their mission. So what they were basically doing was they were working a number 8, bringing the money, bringing the money, bringing the money, bringing the money, just bring them in, bring them in, bring them in. We don't, we're not necessarily caring about our clients, but just bring in the money. And she was miserable.
Mm.
And she said, Elizabeth, I don't know what to do. I can't see myself leaving the law, but this just isn't working for me. So I ran her chart, and her life path is a 9. Now you know a little bit about the 9. It's the compassionate humanitarian. And the frequencies didn't match with the place that she was working, the firm she was working, because she wanted to do what was best for the clients and support them in all different ways. So she ended up switching to a different firm where what they did was they supported people who were trying to come into the country, get their green cards. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she would advocate for them, and she was like, you couldn't have given her gold. So sometimes when we feel off, when relationships are not right, or our businesses are not right, or something is not working, it's because you're not aligned right now in this part of your lifetime. You're not aligned with that frequency. And no matter how much you try, it's kind of like putting 2 positive or 2 negative magnets next to each other. You know how that
And
feels?
they don't want to. Yeah.
They're just going to push away, right? So it's really in our best interest to go with the flow
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to use the things that are in our frequency to support us.
I love this. And you've given us some really great tools. And so just to maybe summarize some of the tools and maybe put a bow on it, is to think about how are you feeling now, without judgment. Put a word to it without judgment. And where do you want to be, and where do you want to feel? But also coming down to understanding where you are, how you feel, but also understanding where you're operating in. And that's where you, as a quantum growth practitioner, and starting with a numerical chart to better understand where you're currently at, will help put things into perspective. But we have lots of tools that we can work with, and rising our vibration, and moving yourselves from maybe a lower vibration to a higher vibration. I love the YouTube piece, because it's right there.
Yeah.
Being in a group setting with singing bowls is an amazing place to be, but not everybody can put themselves into that situation when there's work to be done.
That is true. And you can hop on, listen to music. Music is beautiful frequency. Just be a little cautious of what kind of music you're listening to, but anything that lifts your spirits, that has a good positive message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I love all kinds of music, but I am very cautious at the words, because if you think about it, when we were in school and we learned how to put words together, what was that called? We had to learn how to do what? When we had to write a word, we had to learn the difference between ROAD and RODE. That was called what? Spelling.
Yeah, I was looking for something way more complicated.
No, easy. No, it's easy. Spelling. Listen to the word. Spell. When we are using our words, we are casting a spell.
Mm.
And so when you tell your dog, no, you're a bad boy, or you tell your child, you're a bad boy, you are using your words as a weapon to cast a spell. And at the same token, when you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I love you,
Mhm.
those words are becoming the spell. It is encompassing you and setting you up for what you're going to do next.
I
Right?
love that.
Yeah,
Our words are powerful.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's actually the strongest frequency. Music is wonderful, can lift our spirits. Laughter lifts our spirits. All of anything that is higher vibrational, that moves at a faster rate, can lift
Mhm.
our spirits. But also watch your words. So get out what doesn't serve you and shift it to a higher perspective. And then repeat it and say it and write it. And, um, don't just do it for a day or two. If you can, make it a practice. It is so important to me that I acknowledge myself and I know, and then you know where you want to go. You had asked before, where do we want to go? Well, I
Mhm.
don't know where you want to go. You don't know where I want to go. We have to determine that for ourselves. What do we desire in our lives?
Mhm.
And when we write those down, we're spelling them. We're saying, I've always wanted to take a trip around the world. So you write down, I see myself, I am taking a trip around the world. You don't know how, you don't know when, you don't know where the resources are coming from, but you're literally telling the universe that that's what you desire, and the universe is going to put everything in place to bring it to you. When, I don't know. But if you believe it, and then you take those little steps, those action steps toward it, well, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to put a jar together and throw some coins in there every time I have leftover coins, and that's going to be my travel jar. Is that going to be enough to take you around the world? No. But are you telling the universe you're willing to do something about it? Yes.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, this has been such a pleasure. I thank you very much. And now, where do people find you? And if they would like some help?
Oh, I thank you so much for that. Well, they can visit my website. It's Elizabeth Gifford Maffei. Maffei is spelled Maffei, elizabethgiffordmaffei.com. Or really the easiest way, I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm very active
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, so they can find me there. But the easiest way to reach out to me is to text or to
Mhm.
call, and I'm happy to share my number. It's 321 303 8649. I'll say that one more time. It's 321 303 8649. And it's just a conversation. We'll see where you are, where you want to go, if we're a good fit, if we're not. We all have lots of resources we're all willing to share. So I just, I I just want to see people feel well, be well, and put their gifts out into the world.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you for
Thank you.
taking this deeper conversation with me here today. And I appreciate that.
My pleasure, and thank you. I'm in great gratitude for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.